Yeah, so thank you everyone who might have just joined. We are the LifeSci NYC internship program. This is just our general info session to talk about our application process, the history of our program, um, and how you can get involved. Um, Really quick to introduce ourselves. My name is Evan. I'm a program coordinator with LifeSci. In the room with us as well is Sharon Kaplan, our senior program director, as well as Bill Hammersley, a fellow program coordinator. Um, and not in the room with us is Sally Fang, our associate director of career development. And picture featured on this slide is our email address, internships@upperweststrategies.com. If you reach out to that email, it will send an email to all four of us. One of us will be responding to you. Um, so yeah, this is our team. You might get to know us pretty well depending on how involved in the program you end up being. Um, but a little bit about how our program started and sort of where we're at now. We are in our ninth year of the program. Initially, this program started as part of the New York City Economic Development Corporation's 10-year, $1 billion initiative to grow the life sciences industry um, in New York City specifically. We are the workforce development aspect of that initiative. So we're mainly focused on bringing internships or bringing students into internships across the life sciences industry in New York and finding host companies that are within the life sciences here. Our program offers paid internships for college and graduate students across roles in science, business, and tech. But we are also recruiting for a handful of entry-level full-time and part-time jobs. One thing to note before we move on, all of our positions are paid. In order to be qualified for our program, you must be able to work and get paid without sponsorship. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. And if you have questions, feel free to ask. Since 2017, we have placed just about 1,200 interns at over 240 companies across New York City. We're constantly growing, but we have a very wide net that is cast all across the 5 boroughs. And we're constantly adding new hosts and bringing on new interns each program year. Um, Something to note, or really important information regarding our eligibility. The first qualification or eligibility requirement is that you must be legally able to work in the US without sponsorship, as I mentioned. So that would either mean you're a US citizen, a permanent resident, a DACA participant, or someone with TPS status, or you have a work visa. Typically, this is going to be maybe an F1 or a J1 visa. If that's the case for you, you would apply through CPT or OPT through your university. That would get approved and it would allow you to work with our companies. Almost every one of our companies is able to work with international students. It will be noted in our application, in our job portal very clearly if a company is not able to work with international students. But those are very few and far between. So for the most part, you don't have to worry. Our second requirement is that you must be enrolled in a college or university either in New York City or be a New York City resident enrolled elsewhere. So what this might look like is maybe you're attending NYU as an undergrad, but you're originally from the West Coast. That would make you qualified because you're attending a school in New York. Conversely, if you are a New York City resident, you live in one of the 5 boroughs, but you attend college in the Midwest or um, in the South or something, that also counts, and you'd still be eligible. As long as you have a basis or a valid, strong connection to New York, that's sort of what we're concerned about. Recent graduates, as long as you graduated spring 2024 or later, are still eligible to apply for this program year. And then that last requirement isn't a hard requirement. But we do require, there is a GPA requirement within our application. If you don't have above a 3.0 GPA or at 3.0, there's just going to be a separate section for you to indicate any extraneous circumstances or any reason why your GPA might have been lower than a 3.0. But again, that's not a hard stop. If you have a 2.75, for instance, you're still able to apply to our program. You just have to provide some context. Um, okay. So yeah, you can keep the questions coming in the chat if anything comes up for you. And we are going to just monitor that. But before we move on, we're just going to we like to define what the life sciences means because it is such a sort of broad and potentially vague industry to some people. And we're constantly, redefining our own definition of what the life sciences means. But so far, what we sort of define it as is anything in the pharmaceutical industry, anything in the health tech or medical devices um, industry or sector, um, digital health, or anything within a hospital, a clinic, or a medical environment, we consider part of the life sciences. I already mentioned this, but digital health, health tech, industries that are connecting patients virtually with their provider or providing some kind of healthcare service online. Um, we also consider climate tech, sustainability, and things like that to be life sciences. And then there are also what we call the supportive industries. So any company that is working to support the life sciences as a whole, we would still consider part of the life sciences. So hence the broad nature of our program and why if you have, a business or a marketing background, you would still find opportunities through us is that we uh, really do work with such a wide range of companies. On this slide, you can see uh, a sampling of the host companies that we worked with last year. I think we had something around 70 to 80 companies on our roster last year that were active in hosting students. So again, this is just a small sampling. You've likely not seen most of these, and the reason that is because we work primarily with smaller early stage startup companies that are 10 or fewer employees, usually founded by scientists or a small team of scientists, and they're really just coming off or getting off the ground in New York. Um, so yeah, most of these are startup companies in the biotech sector or the health sciences or are smaller nonprofits. But you might recognize some of the larger institutions like the Rockefeller Institute, or sorry, the Rockefeller University, the New York Stem Cell Foundation, um, Biolabs at NYU, or Columbia. We typically have partnerships with these companies or these organizations where we uh, sort of are a pipeline for students in their own programs. But for the smaller companies, we tend to be the only source of candidates for them because they are so small and need a lot of help in terms of recruiting. On this slide, you can see sort of where all of these companies, what buckets they fall into within the life sciences, their own special industries. We have a lot within pharma, biotech, and diagnostics, like I mentioned. Digital health and health tech tends to be a strong source of companies for us. Up and coming are sustainability, climate tech, and food tech companies. We found that a lot more of those companies are establishing themselves here. We work with quite a few medical equipment and device companies. Some of these are creating prototype medical devices, for instance. Um, we also are working with education and outreach nonprofits like BioBus, GenSpace, Hypothekids. These are more education or STEM education focused. So working within the community, working with students in New York, potentially. We also do work with a small number of marketing and business consulting firms that are supporting life sciences industries or life sciences companies. And then, like I mentioned, we have those hospitals, academic medical centers, and larger organizations um, that we're typically, they have their own programs and we're helping source candidates for them as well. So I believe that's it here you can see just a sampling of the positions that we've had active on our portal before. We split them into two buckets, science roles and then business roles, but they're all on the same portal. And you're allowed and you're able to apply to whichever roles you want. If you are, more science oriented, but you want to venture into more marketing, business, or operations roles, you're completely welcome to do that. You can apply to whatever is of interest to you or whatever you feel like you're qualified for. Just really quick, I'm going to list some of the most common roles that we tend to have on our portal on both sides. So in terms of more traditional science roles, we have a lot of wet lab roles like lab tech positions. R&D roles, bioinformatics, data science, and software engineering roles tend to be really common. We also do have quite a few engineering positions, whether it's chemical, mechanical, or electrical. Um, a lot of our companies are looking for engineering students. On the business side, marketing, business operations, and like market research tend to be the most common roles that we have. We do have the occasional finance role, sales, and marketing, and then business development or business administration. But again, this is just a sampling. It really varies from year to year what kind of roles that we're going to get, and we never really know, you know, what kind of roles, so we can't anticipate always. Sometimes we get a brand new role that we've never listed before, and it might not be represented here. But yeah, I'll pass it on to Sharon to talk more about our program timing. Thanks,
Thank
Sharon.
you, Evan. And welcome everybody. And again, if you just joined us, you can put any questions that you have in the chat and we will address them at the end of our presentation. So about our program timing, our program is open on a year-round basis. Not only are we placing applicants into internships and jobs throughout the year, so both spring, fall, winter, as well as summer, but you can also submit your application at any time of year. We do launch a new application year once a year, and that happens on September 1st. So we're currently right at the beginning of our cycle. If you apply now, you will have access to our job portal basically for a full year through August 31st. And then, we launch every year on September 1st. We make those placements, both summer positions as well as academic year and full-time and part-time job placements on a rolling basis throughout the year. So you'll find that right now you're not going to see summer internships probably posted in our portal. Most of our companies aren't really ready to start that summer recruitment process yet, but it is definitely worth it to submit your application now because there are going to be companies that are going to start their recruitment process early. We are posting positions on a rolling basis throughout the year. So even though we don't have many summer positions posted yet, it is worth applying now because we don't know when that first summer position is going to be posted, and you want to already have your application in so you know about that summer position when it gets posted and you can be an early applicant. Being an early applicant for a role is always beneficial, and because sometimes if a company or an organization that's hiring gets too many applicants, they might not get through all of them before they find a number that fit their needs. So we definitely encourage you to apply now and have access to our program through the end of this program year, which is August 31st of 2026. We will continue making placements throughout the year, and you can continue applying for as many positions as you like. For those who do get placed into a position through our program, you will be invited to our annual boot camp, which takes place in late May, and you are welcome to come even if you end up doing an internship, say, December through March. There'll still be a lot that happens at our boot camp that can be really beneficial to you in a career context. Give you lots of great connections, help you connect with fellow interns. We're working at all different companies throughout New York City. It's really a fabulous experience. As I mentioned, start and end dates of positions vary. Most of our summer internships start sometime around late May or early June and go through early to mid-August. Other than that, dates vary for positions that we offer. So here's an overview of how our placement process works. The first thing you need to do is submit a program application, and we have the link here, and we will also be following up with you via email after this presentation within the next day or so, and we will provide all the relevant links there, so don't feel stressed to have to copy all this information down right now. Once you have submitted your application, we will give you access to our job portal where you can see our full list of current openings as well as the full job description for all of those positions. You will then, for any positions that interest you, you will submit a cover letter to our portal to our program for each position that interests you. And that is how we know to take a look at your application. We will not even be looking at your application until you submit a cover letter or multiple cover letters. So that is a really, really important step if you want to be considered for a role. You cannot just submit the program application. You have to submit cover letters for roles that interest you. And for those for whom the words cover letter strike fear in your heart, don't worry. We actually offer office hours, and we're happy to give you some support and coaching so that you can feel comfortable doing that. Once you submit a cover letter for a position, we are going to review your application, including that cover letter, your resume, any other information you have submitted. And if we find you to be qualified for the position, we are going to forward your application to that particular company for their consideration. At that point, decision making is completely in the hands of the company, and they decide which applicants they wish to interview and whom they ultimately wish to hire. And just one note that we do publish a list of our academic year and full and part-time jobs opportunities, academic year internships and full and part-time jobs, and that is available online to anybody who wishes to look. However, for summer internships, those are shared only with those who have submitted an application through our program. So I definitely recommend you do that. And even if for those academic year or full and part-time positions, in order to actually apply for them, you do have to have submitted an application. So it's definitely worth your doing that. You will get a lot more resources from us that way. You will get regular weekly emails highlighting any new positions we post, any positions that particularly need more applicants, and just keeping you apprised of any programming we're offering. So I highly encourage you to submit an application as early as you can, and then you're always welcome to update parts of that application later, should you wish. Here are just some snapshots, a little of what it looks like to be part of our program beyond the actual position you're placed into. So as I mentioned, we have that boot camp, which is generally 2 days and takes place at the end of May. We get really great feedback on that for our interns. You get to meet your fellow interns. You get to hear from leaders in the field. You have networking opportunities. You get a lot of programming on professional development and other exciting developments within the life sciences industry. In addition to that, we have intern talks and site visits. Sometimes over the summer, we offer tours and career panels. In addition to that, we do also offer virtual career panels throughout the year for anyone. You don't have to have been placed into an internship. And we will highlight an upcoming career panel at the end of this presentation and also let you know how to sign up for that when we follow up after today's presentation. And finally, you get a lot of social and networking opportunities like opening celebrations, closing celebrations, and other events, should you be selected for an internship through our program. We also support our alumni. So, if you're looking for jobs or positions, going forward after your internship, we are here to support you. And now to give you more information on how to be a super strong applicant for our program, I'm going to pass the mic to Bill.
Thanks so much, Sharon. Thanks for going over the timeline of the program, and Evan, thanks so much for going over the history of the program. We're going to move into what we expect out of our applications, and how you can make sure that your application is as strong as possible with us. As we move into these next couple sections, we're going to give some information about our expectations for resumes and cover letters, as well as advice for what we know works for our program. Definitely drop any questions that you have in the chat during this time so that we can handle those in Q&A. We might even handle some of those questions just in our presentation. So please keep us updated if you have those questions. In terms of the way our program works, I think we've covered this clearly already, but just as a clear reminder, when you apply to our program, you get access to our job portal. I think there's sometimes misconceptions that when someone applies to our program, that we then go ahead and immediately match you to positions. But the way that this works is your first step is to create an application with us, and that gets you access to our job board where we post internships and part-time and full-time opportunities. When we look for an application, what we're looking for is a strong personal statement. This personal statement should talk about who you are and what your interests are in the life sciences. Especially if you are coming to our program from an alternative field, maybe you are a computer science student or a business major. It's a great idea to talk about why you want to do that work specifically in the life sciences in your personal statement. You want to make sure that your interest is genuine and that you've thought somehow about, why you want to be a part of this program. You might want to talk about the sort of work that you hope to do or relevant research in this personal statement. You might even talk about specific career goals in as much as, what internships you'd hope to work in throughout your academic career, or maybe even what your target roles would be after you finish your majors. These personal statements are really important. They are one of the stronger components of your application. When we talk about application components throughout this section, not all of these pieces are going to be required, but a strong personal statement is highly, highly recommended. If you feel like you are somebody who speaks about your experiences or about your interests a little bit more compellingly than you might be able to write about them, we also have the opportunity for you to submit a video essay that might cover some of the same things that you cover in your personal statement. That video essay is just an additional way for you to demonstrate your previous experience or your interest. I think in a video recording, excitement can come across a lot more easily, and you just may be somebody who feels more confident speaking on video instead of in all of the expectations of professional writing in a cover letter or in a personal statement. So in the past, I know that hiring managers have reached out to me and said that they were interested in people specifically because of this video component, but it's not required. I would just go forward with it if you feel that it works best for you. We can move on to the next slide. So we talked about the importance of a strong personal statement. In your applications, like I said, you want to really emphasize why you are interested in the life sciences. For those of you with STEM majors, this connection might be really obvious. For those of you coming from a different industry, maybe you have a personal connection to this work. Maybe you have lived experiences that inform what kind of work you want to go into, especially as we consider some of the business opportunities and nonprofit opportunities we've had in the past. There's been things like health advocacy for specific illnesses before. We see people mention these sorts of things often in their personal statements. As you submit this application material, this component, and any of your application materials, it's really important to proofread for spelling or grammar mistakes or formatting. As we look at our resumes and our cover letters as we're on the job hunt, it's really easy for our eyes to sort of get tired and miss these small errors. You don't want something like a spelling error or inconsistent formatting on your resume to be the reason why somebody moves past your resume. And I know that there are people out there that screen resumes in that way. So definitely have somebody else take a look at your application materials. You can come into our office hours for support with your application materials. We'll talk a little bit more about those office hours opportunities a little later as well. But you should be having somebody you trust go over this. That can be us, that can be your career office, it can even be a peer, but make sure that, when you're ready to submit these application materials, that they're up to, a high level of polish before you submit them. One of the optional components to our application is a recommendation. And the way it works in our program is that when you submit your application, you'll have the opportunity to include contact information for up to 2 reference providers. That contact information is just the name, title, and their email. And then once you submit your application to us, that immediately fires off a survey form to the reference providers to submit their own reference. It's meant to be very quick. It's just a couple quantitative and qualitative questions about you. What sort of person you are, how do you handle responsibility, what's your aptitude in the life sciences or, in the field that they know you from. And these references can be really helpful. Occasionally, we'll have positions in our portal that require references. When that's the case, it'll be noted clearly in the job description. But not all of our positions require references. Because some of them do, it can be a good idea to have these on file for you. And when we look for references, it can be a professor, it can be a high school teacher, somebody you've worked with previously, a spiritual advisor, an athletic coach, just somebody that you know in a professional or semi-professional context. The only limit that we do have is that it shouldn't be a family member or a friend. Even in the case that you've worked with that person, you should choose somebody else in that case. Eric, can you request references even after submitting your application? Yes, but that would put you in a position where you might have already applied for some positions without the benefit of having a reference on file. So we really do encourage having them set away in your initial application. It's also important to consider that if you're asking academic advisors or professors for references, then you want to take into consideration what time of year it is. If it's the beginning of the semester or if it's, final season, make sure that you're giving a heads up on the reference request. In general, it's a good idea to tell anybody that you're asking to be a reference 1 to 2 weeks in advance, what you're applying for, how you hope that they might talk about you, what experiences they might want to highlight. If you can brief your reference on what you're hoping them to cover, generally the reference can be a lot stronger. Shinya, your question, is there an application fee? No, our program is free to applicants. Thanks for your question. So out of the application information that we've covered so far, the required information is just some eligibility factors confirming that you are a New York City resident and/or a New York City student. Everything else up until this point has been optional to include, but the core requirement of your application, besides those eligibility questions, is your resume and your cover letter. We're going to talk a little bit about what a successful resume looks like in our program. And this may differ in some places based on what you've heard about resumes elsewhere. Resumes are also pretty cultural expectations. I know when I was working outside of the country, resume expectations were different where I was working as opposed to in the States. So what you're going to hear from us is what we know works well for our program and well for the hosts that partner with us. Before we get started in reviewing aspects of a strong resume, just on a scale of 1 to 5, how confident would you say you all feel in resumes? 1, you might not have written a resume before. 5, you have a new resume ready to go. You can just let me know in the chat. Okay, I'm seeing some confidence. That's great. I wish that I could say I was a 5 on resumes all day. I think there's always more to learn, and I think expectations change as you go throughout your career. As I think back to where you all might be and when I was in your place in my career, I definitely was closer to a 1 or 2 on my resume readiness. I think it always felt strange to me. But I'm happy to see a variety in the chat, and I'm happy to see that we're feeling good about resumes. If you're somebody who might mark yourself lower, then this next section will be helpful for you. So we can move into resume expectations. So as many of you may know, the goal of a resume is to catalog and describe your previous work experience, as well as any previous relevant personal experiences, maybe volunteering or maybe club work that you've done in schools. And the goal of the resume is just to showcase what your skills are. Your resume should be focused to the jobs that you're applying for. One small wrinkle with our program is that our platform only allows for 1 resume at a time. I know the general career advice, advises you to submit tailored resumes to every position that you apply for. But if you are somebody who is thinking of applying to roles in more than 1 field, you're going to want to make sure that those different fields are represented in your resume. So you might be a research student who's hoping to expand into business. If that's the case, you'd want to have something relevant to both of those areas on your resume, excuse me. If you are somebody who knows that you're really only looking at research, then you can have your tailored research resume. But it's generally a good idea to update your resume often, especially if you do a lot of applications with us, and you don't hear from hosts for interviews, or if you don't hear from our system that we've sent you on for consideration. It can be really helpful to meet with us in office hours for resume coaching as well. But when we look at resumes, we're looking for 3 specific areas of your experience. What did you do? How did you do it? And what was it worth, or what were the outcomes of that work? Really often, people show us the first part, no problem. They're able to describe maybe some of the tasks that they've had at their job, or maybe some project responsibilities that they've had in their internships, but they don't always clearly define how they did that work or what the outcomes of that work were. And so to make sure that you're doing this, you want to include data and outcomes where you can from your previous experiences. And one way to make sure that you're answering all 3 of these questions is to think a little bit longer term. Instead of thinking, what did I do every day at my job? Think about, what are the projects that repeated every week at my job or every month at my job? The next aspect that you want to make sure that you're hitting clearly on your resume is your technical skills. This can be anything from the lab procedures that you've learned in your education to software languages or program languages that you might be fluent in, software you've worked with in the past. If you speak multiple languages, it's important to include those on your resume as well. There are a few roles in the history of our program that have looked for bilingualism or multilingualism. And so including that helps us assess if you're a good fit for those roles. In terms of including that language, even if it's not needed for roles that you're applying for, I think it can still be helpful. Generally, we think differently in the different languages that we operate in. So it can be a helpful component of your consideration to include. You want to highlight relevant research experience, any class project or previous employment experiences that would be relevant. And if you're somebody on this call who's saying, this is great, but I don't have previous work experience, I don't have previous internship experience, then things like school clubs or previous volunteer opportunities can be a really great way to round out your resume. The reason for that is some of those group activities can give clearer insights into how you work with people or what level of responsibility you've had to handle in the past. And those are really important characteristics besides just the hard skill fit when you apply for jobs. If you have any awards and honors, you can include them. If you have space, your GPA, you can include it if it's impressive. The next question is, what might impressive look like? And that's definitely different from field to field. So I would speak to academic advisors about that. And then same thing as all of our application materials, proofread, proofread, proofread. It's really easy for these to, it's really easy to miss little mistakes on these. I still wake up in a cold sweat thinking of the time several years ago that I sent out like 20 resumes with a spelling mistake in them that would have been barring. So don't let that be you, and make sure you're relying on the resources that are available to you. I think we can move on. Thank you. So same question I asked in terms of resumes. On a scale of 1 to 5, how do we feel about cover letters now instead of resumes? So you can let me know in the chat. 1, not comfortable at all. 5, I write them every day. I love them. Yeah, this is, thank you all for your honesty with this part. We usually see confidence in cover letters trend a little lower than confidence in resumes. For those of you where your number changed from resume to cover letter, what do you think the reason is? Why do we feel less confident in cover letters as opposed to resumes? And you can let me know in the chat if you feel like you have an idea. Derek, thanks so much. Never written a cover letter before, but they've redone their resume many times. Yeah, that's common. I see people emoji reacting. Tatiana, thank you. Inexperience. I've had to give resumes more often than cover letters. Sabrina echoes the same idea. Less cover letters as opposed to resumes. Maybe people with science backgrounds struggle with writing in general. Having had to try and figure out how to do lab reports, I can say that science writing, it's its own skill set. I would have called myself somebody who was good at writing, and then my lab report grades in college did not match what I thought. Yeah. Similarly, cover letters, I think, are it's just a really different style of writing. I know that that's my personal complaint with it, even now in my career, even a long time into my career. It's just it's a way of thinking and communicating that I sometimes find difficult still. Nakaya says it's harder to talk in depth about experiences and how it could relate to the position. Well, thank you all so much for describing, some of the challenges with cover letters. We're going to go over what we look for in cover letters. And one of the reasons we really want to break this down clearly for you is that a cover letter is a required component for any application in our portal. As I said earlier on the call, we don't automatically match you with internships. You actually need to write a cover letter and submit a specific cover letter for every position that you're interested in. And what we see often is that depending on the field, people can have different expectations for what a cover letter looks like. For example, those of you going into computer science or software engineering, you might be aware that those interviews tend to be very technical. And I think that's led some people in those fields to think that a cover letter isn't important. But you never really know how a company might be hiring and what emphasis they're going to be putting on different parts of your application package. For us, a cover letter is really important in the same reason it is for hosts. If we have 45 people in front of us in a pile and 25 of those people all have about the same skill sets, we still need to get that 25 down to a group of people that we feel is manageable to interview, right? And a cover letter can be a great way to help make that second decision. The goal of a cover letter is to connect all of your previous experience on your resume to the expectations of the role that you're applying for. And so you want to really emphasize the skill fit as well as why you as a person are excited to work in this place and how you might fit into the expectations of the role. And so if you go by these bullet points in our guide, you might see some things you recognize, you might see some new ideas as well. So in the beginning of your cover letter, you want to express your interest in the position and the company. This can be as quick as, my name is Bill. I'm excited to apply for the program coordinator role. My previous experience in education and career coaching make me excited about the opportunity to work in this role. After you state that initial interest in the company and the position, you're going to want to state your major as well as your university and academic year. The reason for that is that as many of you are current students, your academic major is going to be a real limiting factor in the internships that you can apply for. Even a few years after graduation, your major and what you studied in college is going to really define the roles that you can apply for. If that makes you feel a little nervous about, well, what if my major doesn't show up and what these jobs are looking for? All of these positions generally look for a cluster of majors, right? So it might be we're seeking biochem, chem majors, molecular biology majors, or bioinformatics or comp sci all in one position. After you've stated what your major is, you want to emphasize how the company's mission is relevant to your career goals. This is a great place to show that you've done some research on the company. It's a great place to tie in maybe any personal connection you have to the work. But what I want to draw your attention to is that these first 3 bullet points are all marked just as one sentence. I think really often we see cover letters go on for a page or even 2 pages and only cover these first 3 bullet points because that's what we kind of imagine cover letters to be. What's really important though, and you can tell in our guide by the amount of space we're committing to it, is bullet point number 4, where you highlight applicable skills or previous experience that makes you a good fit for the job. Even if the connection seems super obvious to you, it's really important to just explicitly lay this out. If the application that you're submitting for, if the job description says that they're looking for somebody who can learn new programming languages quickly, then it's important to say in your cover letter, I'm fluent in these programming languages already, and this experience shows that I can learn new ones quickly. After you've gone into your experience and how your previous role fits into the new one that you're applying for, it's a great idea to summarize why you're a good fit for the position. This can look really similar to your expression of interest up top. It might, in your closing, you might talk about one or two major areas about why you're a good fit, or one or two major experiences that connect to this role again. And then you just want to thank whoever's reading your cover letter for their consideration. The reason you want to restate at the bottom of your cover letter is that oftentimes there are many applicants and cover letters for a hiring manager to go through. Evan and I are able to spend a little bit more time with your applications than some people might be able to, but I think the number was 14,000 cover letters last year, right, Evan? Is what we did last year together. So it's common to be moving through a lot of cover letters at once. You want to make sure that your communication is clear and punchy. One last note, because we are in the age of AI, you might see cover letter templates online, or language models that say drop your resume in here and get a cover letter from the job description. We often are able to tell when AI is used in some way in the cover letter. This can show up in information that's in your cover letter, but not substantiated by like your transcript or your resume. So maybe the AI has invented information that doesn't apply to you. Sometimes the information is just way too vague, or sometimes it focuses on a part of the job description that doesn't make sense to focus on. If we suspect that AI is used, it's not an immediate no. I think that ship has sailed, but it is a lot easier for an AI cover letter to be a weak cover letter. So please make sure that you're relying on career services at your college, or office hours with us, where we can give you really strong advice on how to improve that cover letter yourself without using those tools. In terms of upcoming events, we have a couple that we want to make you aware of. If you are one of the people who joined us late today, we will have a recording of this session out, but we also have upcoming info sessions as well. The next one will be in October. It'll be in the afternoon. If you're aware of some friends who might be interested in the program, feel free to send them our way. And we'll be hosting these frequently throughout our application season. We'll have another one at the end of the month. And then at the end of this month, on Thursday, September 25th, we're going to have a career panel exploring career opportunities in the life sciences that entail more than research. So maybe you have done some internships already, or maybe your undergrad was focused in research and now you're pivoting to a master's degree outside of research. That could be a great career panel for you to attend. We also will talk about those events and any upcoming ones on our social media. You had the right idea, Evan. Thank you. And I think we can move on to the next slide. If you need more information from us, you can head to any of these bit.lys. We'll email this slide deck out so you don't have to write these down. Office hours will cover resumes, cover letters, application strategy, career coaching. If you've done internships and you're looking for jobs now, that's what career coaching might cover. We also cover mock interviews there as well. You can join our meetup group for some more information. You can reach out to our internships@upperweststrategies.com email with general questions that we might not have covered today. And then if you're somebody who you know your major, but you don't know what jobs are out there for that major, our career profiles resource is great for you. We have cheat sheets for resumes and cover letters. And I think that covers just about everything that we need to cover except for the Q&A. I know we have some questions in chat already, so I'm going to pause and we'll start digging into those. If you haven't dropped a question in chat yet for Q&A, go ahead and do those now. We'll continue to answer those until the end of the call.
I think the first question that we were asked is, what if I just started my degree and don't have a GPA yet? You can always just put 0 in that case. We're not going to disqualify you because you do that. And then once your first semester has ended and you have received your grades, you can just email us and say, here, I've got my grades. I now have a GPA. Could you please update my application? And we'd be happy to do that for you. We're happy, in fact, to update any aspect of your application at any time. So if you've updated your resume, or you have something you want to add in terms of skills you have, just reach out to us, and we're very accommodating and happy to help you. I believe Evan posted and may post again, and we'll also share it with you following this presentation, how to reach us, internships@upperweststrategies.com. It reaches all of us, and we're always happy to assist you. I think our next question is on the same topic. What if you're a first semester freshman, don't have an established GPA yet? And this is the same as if you just started another degree, say a master's degree. Yes, you can put your most recent GPA and then update it when you are able. Let's see. We've been asked if the Zoom recording will be available. I think we've told you, yes, it will. And we will also be sending you a copy of the presentation. I see we have a question. If we submit an application, we can access further job recruitment, the portal. Yes, you can access our portal throughout our program year, which goes through August 31st, and keep applying for positions whenever you see one that interests you. And then here's a question. I'll give this one to Evan. Can we customize our standard resume for each job posting?
So our portal, how our application works, you upload a single resume, and that resume is what will be used for any of the companies that you apply to. If, as Bill had mentioned, once we screen your application, if you've submitted a cover letter to maybe one or two or more companies, that same resume that is on your initial application, if approved, will be forwarded to all of our hosts. We do allow you to update your resume at any time. So if you have alterations that you want to make, or if you apply to a specific position and you want your resume to be more tailored to that specific position, you can email us with a PDF of your resume at internships@upperweststrategies.com, and we'll update that for you. But again, keep in mind that it will still be the case that that one resume will be visible by any company we approve you for.
And Bill, here's a question for you. If I've only done PCR and gel electrophoresis in a high school class setting, should I still include it in my resume?
Yeah, I would still include that just because it's not always common for people to have those experiences in high school. PCR and gel electrophoresis, we see those in just about every research role, right? Even the ones that are wide open, they're looking for people who have done a little bit of that before. And then it's core to what the research will be, even in some of our more complex roles. So yeah, definitely include that on your resume. And if there's ways for you to include what that lab might have been, you can also include that on your resume as well.
Our next question is, if you are a freshman, should you include your high school GPA? I would not recommend doing that because we are not a high school program. We would prefer that you just put the 0 and update us when you have a GPA from college. And likewise with a transcript, you are welcome to just upload your class program, and then later on, when you have grades on your transcript, you can send us an updated version. Let's see, next question. Is it common for the companies working with the program to give return offers to interns after graduation? Do you want to take that one, Evan?
Yeah, so I'm assuming you mean bring on an intern for a full-time job, after graduation or after their internship ends. We found that it is fairly common. I believe it's just below 50% of our interns at least receive an offer to continue on as a full-time employee or to extend their internship after the allotted hours. So yes, it is fairly common within our program at least for that to happen. But yeah, it doesn't always have to be after graduation. It could be just an extension of your internship, even part-time. You could still be, enrolled in a school.
And I see we have a question here, can international people apply? And that is addressed at the beginning of the presentation, but the short answer is yes, you just must have a visa that allows you to work in the United States without sponsorship. And you'll be able to find more details when we share this presentation with you, or feel free to reach out to us via email. Let's see, addressed about customizing your resume. Is the purpose of the personal statement for the LifeSci team to review and offer better job matches to applicants? And will companies view the personal statements as well? Do you want to take that, Bill?
Yeah, Eric, thanks for your question. So companies do view the personal statements. That's why it's a good idea to put strong effort into it. I will also say that I think companies probably care a lot about those personal statements. For us, I think we prioritize the resume and the cover letter, but for companies, I know that we hear so often whenever we meet with hosts, like, oh, I'm really looking for somebody who's passionate about this work. I'm really looking for somebody who can like give to this role. And so personal statements are really wonderful opportunities for you to get that passion across, and to tell a little bit more of your story that you might not be telling in a resume or a cover letter. So companies do see them, and it's part of the screening process for our team and for companies as well. Your first question is the purpose of the statement to offer better job matches. So we don't just match people with jobs in our portal. We can, reach out to you and recommend like, hey, Eric, we've seen you apply to a lot of these positions. You should keep an eye on this company, right? But in terms of the scale of our program, last year we had a little over 4,000 applicants. And so as Evan and I work through applications, we're handling a lot of those, just a high quantity of applications. The best way to sort of get that hopeful, personalized advice you want for your job hunt would be to come to us for career coaching, where we could meet with you one-on-one and we could say, keep an eye out for these companies when they post, keep an eye out for these job titles when they post. But again, we don't directly match students to opportunities. If I didn't answer your question, Eric, just let me know in chat. Should we avoid writing overlapping information between cover letters and personal statements? No, I think the nature of those two documents is that there probably will be some overlap, but because a cover letter is about your experience and the job you're applying for, cover letters are probably going to be more unique to each role than your general personal statement might be.
I think we've reached the end of our questions. We are thrilled to have so many of you attend today and look forward to seeing your applications, meeting you in office hours, and hearing from you via email at internships@upperweststrategies.com. You will hear from us within the next day or so with a recap of information we shared today and a copy of today's presentation. And I think we had somebody raise their hand. Are we able to call on her, Evan?
Yeah, so you can either type your question in the chat, but let me see. Yeah, if you'd like to unmute, you should be able to.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So after we apply the application, so we're gonna get the email if we get the accept or not.
So there's no acceptance or, rejection from our program. If you're eligible, you can submit an application. And then, like we mentioned, you would apply to individual companies. That's where you would sort of be approved or denied. If we think you're a good fit for or a good match for a company, you'll be notified if your application is forwarded.
Okay, so like if I'm eligible for the application, so I got the internship, right? It's no reject or acceptance, right?
No, so unless I'm not understanding you correctly, so if you submit an application, you're eligible for our program, you're not guaranteed an internship. We can't guarantee anyone an internship just as an applicant. We have so many applicants and a very limited number of open slots. So it would be based on if you apply to a position and you're approved and the company wants to move forward with you, that would be up to them.
Oh, all right. Thank you so much.
And I just think one last question here. We have somebody who asked, that if they're an international student, how do they answer the eligibility question about legal residence in New York City? If you're currently attending a university in New York City and you are living in New York City, then you are currently a legal resident of New York City. You're not a citizen, but you are a resident. So you can answer yes to that question. If you're an international student attending SUNY Buffalo and you live in Buffalo, then the answer is no, and you would not be eligible for our program. And I think we've reached the end of our time today, so we welcome your questions. Please feel free to email us or sign up for office hours, and we look forward to working with you soon. Thank you very much for attending today.